On the radio now, here we have 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning.
Good morning, Drew.
Good morning. I'm the only one without a computer here.
You can take over this as much
Got to
as
see
you
the
want.
breaking news. No.
What's going on in the legislature? The governor out in Switzerland at Davos talking about the World Economic Forum and things like that. President Trump, I think, is there now or will be there in the next couple of days. What happens when the governor, the CEO of the state, if you will, is out of town?
Mm-hmm.
Who runs the show, and do people really even notice?
Well, not with this governor. They don't notice.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I went there.
Wow. Starting it off strong.
Yeah.
All right.
But no, so under our state constitution, the governor has to be in state in order to fulfill his duties.
Uh-huh.
So when he travels out of state, the lieutenant governor becomes the acting governor.
Okay.
And there's actually a chain there. And this has happened a couple of times. So if both of them are out of state, then it goes to the Secretary of State.
Oh, wow.
And in terms of acting governor, it's really the powers are limited. They can't suddenly overturn a lot of things, but it's really there to be able to declare a state of emergency, when we have disasters and things like that, to be able to coordinate responses. So it's fairly limited, but they are the acting governor in those situations.
It was pretty cool to see the capital budget finally get passed through and signed into law. Lots of help here for the 35th District. What are some of the benefits that you're seeing that will be coming into the area?
Yeah, and we worked on this last year, and so this budget was not renegotiated. It's the same one that we had agreed to late last year. And so first, real quick, obviously with Hearst being done, that's what paved the way to get the capital budget done. And I think by and large, Hearst is good. It's not perfect. The compromise that we did on it, I voted for it, as did Representative Griffey. And by and large, I think it's the best solution we were going to get, and that's why I supported it. And so that cleared the path to get the capital budget done. And so to that end, there's $1.5 million in there for the Shelton's ongoing sewer wastewater management projects, and so I'm very pleased with that. That'll help, phrase it this way, it'll help not raise rates. It doesn't help lower them, but it helps complete a lot of infrastructure that's necessary, and I know the city has long advocated for those dollars. I think this is the second or third time that we've gotten money to that project.
That's
so
great.
That's a huge lift, and another big one is the Belfair sewer. We got design money in there to connect that to the South Kitsap Industrial Corridor up near the Bremerton Airport.
Wow.
And so by eventually bringing that online, so what the plan is that this is design money, and as the Belfair Bypass is done in the next couple of years, that sewer will get extended out into that South Kitsap Industrial Corridor. So it helps Belfair, it helps the Port of Bremerton expand that light industrial base. It's a win-win for both counties.
That's huge.
So I'd point to those as the two big ones, and then also a number of ones that frankly help those that need it most. Everything from Turning Point has some money in there. Holly Ridge up in Bremerton. So a lot of good programs that deal with domestic abuse and developmental disabilities, and getting some construction dollars for their facilities. The West Sound Tech School up in Kitsap as well.
Yeah.
That's part of that. So I think a lot of good things, a very combined effort by myself and Griffey and Senator Sheldon, and I think we got a lot of good things. I think it's probably, I'd have to look to verify this, but I think it's probably the most money since I've been elected that we've gotten directed to the 35th District.
That's
Wow,
awesome.
that
Good for
is
you guys.
awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned the bypass, and I know that it has been on the list, and it has been moving up and up, and I think in the 2019 or 2020 is when we're thinking of that happening finally.
Yep. So that was approved in the transportation budget that was done in 2015, I think it was. And so everything is still on track. Nothing, the Belfair Bypass didn't get bumped down. There's a time frame to everything. And so next year, I believe right now, the initial design, redesign, third design, whatever is being done. But next year they actually start the right-of-way acquisitions. So a lot of the land purchases begin to happen, and that's a big chunk of money. In terms of people actually seeing dirt move and something happening, probably really won't. Most people won't notice that until 2020. Okay. And we're looking at, I believe, if I recall, somewhere around 2022, 23 before that is fully completed. But it's on schedule. It's still in there, and our fight now is to make sure that it stays where it's at. It's been approved before in a transportation project budgets, and DOT has conveniently slipped it down the slope. In that process, and so we're holding firm to make sure that stays where it's at.
I was talking with Senator Sheldon yesterday. We were kind of looking at some of the bills that he's been sponsoring and a lot of the work that he does talking with the constituents in the 35th. I see a big list of bills that you've sponsored for this session. Is a lot of this continuation from the end of last?
Yeah. In the second year of a biennium, everything is reintroduced, maybe isn't the right word, but it becomes alive again.
Yeah.
So it might look like I've put a lot out there. I really haven't this year in terms of new legislation.
It's been just a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to remember how to get to the place and everything.
Yeah. Yep. No, I've got it. I do have a handful of bills that I've sponsored this year. Dealing with budget reform, I actually have a couple of bills that we're moving through the process. One dealing with domestic violence that was brought to me by a constituent, and those are important. And unfortunately, it died last year in the Senate just due to some logistics. So we're going to get that through either today or tomorrow, back out of the House and over to the Senate, and we'll keep moving along.
I know one of the bills that you had talked about a lot was funding education first, and I said it on the list now. Is that still something that we're moving towards, even with the McCleary decision by the Supreme Court to fully fund education? And there's a lot of monies that are still being needed, I think, to fill those coffers fully. Is that still something that you're looking at before on a regular session, I guess?
I still support it. The reality of it is that those that are in control right now in the House and the Senate, the Democrat leadership does not subscribe to that viewpoint. And so, while I'm still an advocate for it, it's not something that's going to happen in the near term. And to that, I do believe that we should do a separate education budget. We should use those dollars first to make sure that we have fully funded K-12, and then go on and do the rest of the budget. But that just isn't supported right now by those that control the agenda.
What are some of the things that you've got sponsored or put forth that you think you can get good bipartisan support with?
Well, I do have good bipartisan support on budget reform. Again, it's a short session, and sometimes these things just take years when you do a major overhaul.
Yeah.
And I really do believe that if we move that fiscal year up, that's going to really force the legislature to get its budget done on time. And we've got strong support in all four caucuses. I'm fighting just to get it heard this year, just so we can start to vet out some of the issues that will arise in making that change, which invariably there will be. But it's tough to get any bill scheduled in a short session, because we're by middle of next week we're halfway done. We start to hit our cutoff points now, and so it is tough. To do that, and so this is a major lift. I'm going to continue to work on, and again, we have it's got strong bipartisan support, and we just need to keep it up there on the radar. It might be a thing that gets heard next year. It'll take a couple of years, and I'm not naive about that at all. It's sometimes these they take a few sessions to get through.
Sometimes you'll see legislation move quickly if there's some major national catalyst, but if it's just from a constituent or your initial idea, how long does it take to go from idea inception to potentially sitting on the governor's desk, especially with these larger budget, education, tax reform, these kind of things?
I can give you two examples. One, something that moved fairly quickly was this is relatively speaking, is an issue that was brought to me by a constituent a couple of years ago, and without rehashing everything, it had to do with how L&I was enforcing issues where if you owned a property inside of an LLC, technically, the way L&I interpreted the law was that you had to be licensed, insured, and bonded to work on your own property. It just makes no sense, right? And so we did legislation to overturn that. That was brought to me in the summer by a constituent, had the bill written that fall, introduced in January, and that went fairly smooth through the process and was signed by the governor, probably I think in May of that year. So that was that was a smooth process. Took a little less than a year, but it happened during one session. On the contrast, I've been an advocate for getting away from the number of tests that we do that are state mandated in education. I've been working on that since first elected. We got the first bill signed last year. And so that was 5 years in in the making. And
Oh, wow.
so those are your two extremes that I would say. That sometimes it just takes time to do it. And our founding fathers in writing the Constitution and the our permanent rules in the House and Senate, it's really designed to make it difficult to pass legislation, and it should be that way. It should not be easy to rewrite the laws of the state, and so it's designed to make the process slow so that you ensure things are fully vetted. And while it can be frustrating when you're on the opposite end of that stick, I appreciate it and I respect it, and I certainly defend that. I don't think it should be easy to get legislation done.
Yeah. Well, very nice. 35th District Representative Drew MacEwen, always good talking with you.
Likewise.
Have a good rest of your day, and have a good rest. I can't believe it's almost halfway through already.
Oh, thank God.